Alright, just teleporting to the people in my friends list, seeing where they're at, and everyone looks like they're in their normal locations. Oh, teleporting to a new spot. This is Worlds, a 1995 chat client that's still in operation. If you're familiar with Second Life, or IMVU, or more recently Roblox, then you kind of get the idea of what Worlds was trying to be. Apparently, Worlds at one time did have brand deals with people like Aerosmith and stuff, but that was very long time ago. There is a trailer that you can find that talks about how Worlds was going to be like a virtual community where people could see advertisements and interact with their favorite brands, and I guess that means they'd be more likely to interact with it in the real world. Worlds has a lot of urban legends surrounding it, a lot of creepypastas as well. All this is amplified by YouTubers like Nexpo who talk about it. And just for the record, I'm not saying that no shady or dark stuff happens in Worlds, because it's a social MMO, so there's about to be some sketchy stuff that happens. But at the same time, this video isn't going to be 100% focused on debunking those myths or enforcing them. Instead, kind of like my 2B2T Minecraft video, this is more of an archived look. Because if Acheron's Call doesn't exist anymore, then that means anything is on the verge of being shut down, depending on age. Covering Worlds was kind of like a last-minute decision after playing that Serious Sam mod D6. And I've seen multiple videos on this, and I played it very briefly once in college. And if I'm all about this archival stuff, why not just go in, take a look for myself, and do a video on it, give my 2 cents. So here we are. This is Worlds, and I'm going to take you on a tour of all the places that I've been to. Well, not all the places I've been to, because this place is a rabbit hole. First, a disclaimer, playing in a virtual machine, because if you get the EXE off the website and run it through a virus checker, there's a Trojan horse. Could be a false positive, but I ain't playing around with this. And who knows how many security issues are with these servers. So when you make an account, it'll ask you to fill out some information like what's your hobbies, what's your likes, what's your dislikes, what city are you from, stuff like that. Seems pretty typical for a social-oriented MMO. It does say that if you fill out everything, you get bonus points added to your profile, but judging by the FAQ on one of the websites, bonus points has no point yet. And who knows if it'll ever have a reason? It's hard to say what things have been here since the 90s or early 2000s and what things are new. If you decide to go deep down the rabbit hole, you'll find out that some worlds were made, relatively recently, while others have been around for a very long time. And I keep throwing that word out there, Worlds. Well, let's start talking about that. When the game starts, you get thrusted into a Ground Zeroes room. Ground Zeroes means that you can see other players. So there's different themed Ground Zero rooms, and even though it looks like what it looks like to you, doesn't mean it's what it looks like to other players. I probably described that horribly, but you get the idea. All other worlds are URL-based, hosted on a server somewhere, maybe in the CEO's house. But you gotta have that URL to teleport to certain worlds. Now, the people of Worlds may have been attacked in the past, because if you try to find old archival websites, you'll be greeted to a screen like this. Now, it could be a troll, it could be a meme, but if, you go to Gimli's mugshot room, which will be a topic of a segment soon, you'll see that he says, "Don't send me anything about Bitcoin." So I don't know, another reason to use a virtual machine. But if you find an archived website that hasn't been removed, or have some weird image in the background, or doesn't give you a 404, then you can use those URLs to teleport to them. Some worlds don't have public access anymore, and this could be to other YouTubers and bloggers who have exposed, quotation marks, this server, because there's some worlds that people have talked about that I can't get to because now they've been made private. But this doesn't mean that Worlds is locked off to everyone and it's a tight-knit community, because there's a lot of worlds. Like, sure, there's probably like an inner circle. Every society, community, whatever has an inner circle. There's probably some weird stuff that I'm not allowed to see. But if you are just curious and want to do some virtual spelunking, there's just limitless worlds. Even if you don't want to go to the sketchy parts of the web to look for the archived websites, there is several areas that have travel destinations where you can just go to that world immediately, and within some of those worlds might take you to other places. A method that I tried that I think I got from Reddit is where you add people to your friends list, and then when they're online, you just teleport to them to see where they're at. You'll go to their world, and that's how I've found a couple places. Though I don't know if these places are easily accessible from the travel area that I found, because truth be told, I didn't go through every single world in this travel room. It's an endless rabbit hole of user-made worlds, and it just goes on for an eternity. And you got weird stuff like the breast implant hospital to the very creative Barbie room where a kid's looking through the window and you're the Barbie. I thought that was kind of neat. There is so much to talk about with worlds, and it's hard to really structure it in a way that makes a whole lot of sense. There was a lot of names that were cool to see, names that a lot of people tie to the supposed cult, which if you go to DOSFox's website, he even has like a page where it says cult. And I can imagine when people saw that for the first time, they were like, ooh, I found the page that talks about the cult. And then when you go there, he's just like, come on, man, there's no cult. It's a dead meme. But I guess you want to hear about that, huh? Well, there was a guy named like Noctalis or whatever, and he would bring people to creepy locations and like, you know, show them weird, spooky stuff. Like he would take him to this room that I found on my own by exploring the Polymatrix, which is an endless, weird, trippy thing that has a lot of twists and turns. But it's the crucifixion of Jesus, I guess, and then a bunch of weird stuff. Don't even get me started on the clouds that about gave me a seizure. And anyway, he's the guy who's the supposed leader of said world's cult because of the spooky stuff he did. Which, I mean, if I was a frequent worlds goer and I really wanted to spook people, I'd probably do it too. In fact, if I really wanted to, I have a couple ways where I can invite people to this server and take them to some pretty trippy locations and, you know, make them spooked. It's really easy to do in this game because all the assets and stuff are from the 90s, so it's got a very Uncanny Valley feel to it. I mean, it doesn't help that Fallen Angel, one of the people that's always online, looks like that. But anyway, next you got Jimbly, who's part of the controversy as well, and it's because he has this mugshot wall hallway, and if you send him an email with a picture and your username, he will put your face or picture up on one of these walls. It goes on for like 100 rooms, and you can see people of the server. I'm not going to show it here. It does come off as a little weird, I'll admit. I've thought about trying to send in the CD-ROM Fossil logo to him, see if he'll put it up on the wall. But I don't know. While I don't believe the creepypastas or urban legends necessarily, there's always a 1% chance it's true. But yeah, I spent a good 2-3 days just exploring, wandering around. And what gets really creepy is that the moment you leave a ground zeros is the moment that you're never going to see another person. And it just gets really eerie. Wandering around empty hallways of things that are supposed to be populated. Or the fact they took the time and effort to render a bathroom. And for some reason it's weird that no one's in it. There's also a bathroom of a place where there's just some random creepy thing on the floor. You know, that made me feel a little uneasy. There's a lot of history, and it's fun to explore and look at it all because you know that these worlds had to be created by a user, and just the imagination or maybe lack thereof that went into it is quite fascinating. For when you go from hyper-religious stuff to emulated stuff where they're trying to copy something from the real world, like there's a lot of Hard Rock cafes for some reason, to the weird seizure clouds I mentioned before. It's very diverse in its weirdness, and there's a lot of content to just sift through. Worlds is a fascinating, still operating 3D chat social MMO that has all sorts of urban legends and creepypastas, but also on the surface level is just a bunch of people still using it as a way to communicate with their virtual friends. And it definitely gave me some nightmares. But yeah, I'm Elijah Blackwell, CD-ROM Fossil. That's the virtual society of worlds.com. I enjoyed exploring. It was fun to walk around. I didn't know if I was going to make this a creepy pasta heavy episode or talk about it the way I truly felt about it, which is very surface level. And again, I'm not denying that sketchy stuff doesn't happen, because it probably does. But at the same time, I myself witnessed none of it except for the mugshot wall. Still probably the most questionable thing I came across. Everything else seemed very intentional to cause some sort of reaction, whether it be uh, amazement or scared. There's a lot of emotions some of these worlds will make you feel, and it's hard to put in words, as said before. But I don't think I'll do another video on worlds, and I think I've done my fair share of exploring. I think I've tapped the potential of the worlds available to me. Sure, I didn't go to every single one, but you can kind of get the idea of what they are just by the names. Like Gangster World is a bunch of gangster movies, for example. The Easter Hunt world is just that. It's Ground Zeroes, but with Easter eggs, and I couldn't find them all. It made me kind of upset. Like I said before, you have to get to worlds using the URL. So once you got to a spot, you could save it and teleport to it later. If anyone would like some world marks, if you're going to play this on your own, let me know. I'll load it up and get those URLs. Or if you have any worlds marks of some interesting places you found, if you're a worlds player who's seeing this, let me know. I wouldn't mind still looking around and spelunking a little bit. It was fun. It was fun. And no, I'm not covering IMVU.